Good evening. It's the City Council meeting, July 22nd. I'd like to begin the meeting with our prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
Counsel Kennedy.
Here.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Martin.
Here.
Counsel Mercia.
Here.
Counsel Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
It's 9 present.
9 present. The chair would like to recognize City Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence and darken chamber for the 7 people who succumbed to the fire on Branch Street. Ellen Vong, devoted mother of 5 children, was an office manager employed at the Hannaford on Rogers Street in Lowell. Ellen had a passion for cooking and would teach her children how to cook. She often prepared elaborate feasts. She believed that feeding someone is showing them that you love them, which is what she was taught by her mother. Thorne Tony Sack was the father who led by example for his children to follow through his generosity to others and his willingness to help anyone in need. He enjoyed fishing and traveling with his children. Anthony Sack, age 12, had just completed the 6th grade at the Daily School where he earned a straight A report card. Anthony loved his parents and his siblings and was well aware of how lucky he was to be a part of such a devoted family. Ryan Sack, age 9, just completed the 3rd grade at the Maury Elementary School. He loved playing video games and was fascinated with flying helicopters, so his uncle bought him a mini helicopter at Christmas time. 7 years old Sayuri Sack, who had just got promoted from the 1st grade at the Maury Elementary School. She loved to help her mom cook and oftentimes did her own pretend cooking. She frequently hosted tea parties and adored her dolls. She brought much delight to the family. Left behind are 2 sons, Danny and Brian Sack, and grandparents, aunts, and uncles. Also a victim of the fire were Tina Christakis and her friend, Robert Downs. We offer our sympathy to the family, relatives, and many friends of the deceased, and our hearts go out to the more than 50 people who were displaced by the fire. We offer a special blessing to the Lowell Fire, Police, EMTs, DA's office, the Red Cross, and the many, many volunteers, those that are here this evening, and to those public safety personnel who came and took part in the rescue and aided in any way to the residents during this horrific tragedy. And to all the people who donated clothes, money, food, and services and helped in any way, we as a city council are most grateful. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing us to say this. We stand in a moment of silence.
Could we all please rise for darkened chambers and a moment of silence? May they rest in peace. On July 10th, just 12 days ago, Our city experienced a tragedy, a traumatic fire that affected so many families, but reverberated through each and every house in our city, across the state, and even our nation. It is a day we will never forget, and our hearts go out to each and every family member affected by this horrific fire that claimed the lives of 7 Lowellians. I cannot begin to tell each and every one of you here tonight how moved I was and how proud I am to see you on that day in action on the morning of July 10th. That day, one of the worst tragedies in Lowell history, a day we will not soon forget. From the time I arrived on the scene that morning at 6:20, I saw firsthand the incredible hard work of the men and women of the Lowell Fire Department and the Lowell Police Department. Their response is a testament to their professionalism and their dedication to the job. Hearing firsthand accounts of police officers and firefighters rescuing children and families from the burning building. Again, a testament to their courage, honor, and dedication. And for this, our community honors you, and we are indebted. First, to the Lowell Police Department. On behalf of the city and my colleagues in government, a citation. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby offers its sincere gratitude to the members of the Lowell Police Department for all your efforts in responding to the tragic fire at 77 Branch Street. On the morning of July 10th, 2014, the quick action of the Lowell Police Department in assisting victims, alerting neighbors, and securing the neighborhood allowed the Lowell firefighters to do their jobs. The security and safety the department provided that morning and continues to provide to this day to the neighborhood is greatly appreciated, and the community is indebted. Your dedication to public service and safety in this community, along with the compassion and caring displayed by the department, has been well received and recognized by the neighborhood. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Rodney M. Elliott, hereby offer all the best and gratitude for all the heroic tasks the Lowell Police Department performed on July 10th and every day for the good of the city. Given this 22nd day of July 2014, on behalf of all my colleagues in government and 106,000 people in the city of Lowell, we thank you, members of the Lowell Police Department. To the Lowell Fire Department. Again, having arrived that morning and seeing all the firefighters in action is a testament to the true courage, dedication, and commitment of the Lowell Fire Department. Having spent many hours with your firefighters, Chief, I can tell you there wasn't a minute that didn't go by that their focus was on suppressing, maintaining that building, and providing any service that they possibly could. Citation, be it hereby known to all. The City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby offers its sincere gratitude to members of the Lowell Fire Department for all your efforts in responding to the tragic fire at 77 Branch Street. On the morning of July 10th, 2014, 3 companies that responded in a timely fashion to this 3-alarm fire and took swift action to combat this raging inferno and save the lives of so many. Your actions that morning will long be remembered by those affected by this tragedy. The entire City of Lowell and every member of the community extends its deepest appreciation and gratitude to all the brave firefighters, and we thank you for your dedicated service to maintaining the safety in this community. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Rodney M. Elliott, extend our deepest gratitude to the Lowell Fire Department for your heroic tasks and unselfish commitment to public safety that you performed on July 10th and that you display each and every day for the good of our city. Given this 22nd day of July, 2014, by myself, Rodney M. Elliott, the mayor, and all members of this city council and 106,000 people in the city. Chief and members of the fire department, we're grateful and we thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, and members of the City Council, I have, joining me tonight, I have several members of the Lowell Fire Department, many of whom were among the very first to respond to the fire on Branch Street on July 10th. On their behalf, as well as all the men and women of the Lowell Fire Department, I'm proud to accept this citation, and I would like to add to it my congratulations for their outstanding work under near impossible conditions. Very, very proud of them, and I think the City of Lowell is very well served by their fire department. Thank you.
I would also like to take this opportunity to thank so many others, so many organizations, so many individuals who literally stepped up to the plate in a moment's notice to ask, how can I help? What can I do? To the Red Cross, who arrived on that scene very, very early that morning. They were there at 4:30 a.m. And you have stayed for many days. We can't thank you enough. Could you please stand and be recognized?
Thank you. I would just like to say these are just the volunteers that came at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. We had a total of about 55 volunteers that worked from the day of the fire till we're still supporting some of the families. So I really appreciate being on it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also want to recognize the city manager, who arrived on the scene very early that morning as well. Mr. Manager, your tireless work in bringing every city resource to the fire, being there for hours on end, did not go unnoticed. Inspectional services, the Lowell Senior Center, the Cemetery Department, the Assessor's Office, Development Services, all provided valuable support throughout this tragedy and continue to do so. We thank you. To Community Teamwork Incorporated, Lowell Housing Authority, Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association, Lowell Regional Transit Authority, Faye McCabe Funeral Home, Market Basket, McDonald's, the Glory Buddhist Temple, and the many other organizations who have come together to provide support, donations, the Wish Project. Moving forward, and even at that time, you rose to the occasion and you continue to do so. And again, on behalf of the city, we couldn't do it without you. We need you, we'll continue to need you, but more importantly, we are grateful and we thank you. I'd like to leave you all with this. What I can tell you is I have spent the last 12 days with so many organizations and with the families and representatives from many organizations from all corners of the Cambodian community. The support from the city, from the community, have touched them in a way like no other. And I can tell you, not through their words, but through their actions, they are extremely grateful. I don't believe any one of us understands why tragedies like this happen. But it is times like this that Lowellians pull together with a determined spirit and strength and caring in this community always comes out during these times. And from the bottom of our hearts, we humbly thank each and one of you here today for all of you have done, and those of you at home for all you have done as well through your contributions. God bless all of you. Thank you. Council Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm very grateful. This was quite a moving ceremony on your part, and you recognized everybody in the room, and I think that we, as a council, would like to recognize you as the mayor of the city who represented us and held your head up high in a dignified manner. And so I'm very, very grateful to you for stepping up to the plate and making us all very proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor, and members of the council and everybody here. It was easy to do when you care about the city and the people affected by it. So it was my honor. Okay, moving on to the agenda. Sorry, is anybody from the community would like to say a few words, or? We're all set? Okay.
And they're welcome to stay the night if they would like to.
We'll be here all night, so you're welcome to say. Would you like to say a few words from the Glory Buddhist Temple?
Yes, my name is Kuwait Kret. I'm one of the community leaders in Lowell, Mass. I would like to take this opportunity again to thank you all members in the City Council, as well as the Mayor of Lowell, and also different community, nonprofit organization, citizen of Lowell that come together in a time of crisis, and we create some type of a core and very strong foundation in terms of providing support to the one who need the most. This kind of kindness and the collaboration, as well as the united community, illustrate the strength of our city, as well as the individual who care and spend the time, a lot of time, with the family members to comfort them, and probably they need the most too. And I will thank you to all my colleagues and the volunteer at the temple, Glory Buddhist Temple, and the all nonprofit organization, the department, especially the Lowell Police Department that provide the escort during the funeral services, the Red Cross relief disaster, very active during, before, and after until we finish our procession. And also some others friends that we here. I could not talk on your behalf, but I would like to extend my sincere thanks, and it's our honor to do the work and to be part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kuwith. I'd also be happy to report that donations have exceeded $125,000 from the Branch Street Fire Victims Relief Fund as late as today, thanks to Council Milanazzo. I also would like to report, Bhopal, would you please like to come up and just, the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association has also been raising money as well, and if you'd like to report your tremendous efforts as well, which will be combined with both accounts to distribute to the families. And by the way, families will be receiving funds as soon as tomorrow to get them started until we figure out how to distribute this money.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, as of yesterday, we raised over $54,000. And like Mr. Kovad, I really appreciate you and all of the city officials here for the way you've responded and the way you've just helped our community. Thank you for your leadership, and we truly appreciate all of you. And you know, we really enjoyed and working. You know, this is a tragic event, but on a positive note, we really feel like everyone came together and supported each other and helped each other, and what a great city. I'm really happy and proud to be a part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the first item on the agenda, and that is the minutes from the City Council meeting of July 8th. Motion to accept and place on file by Council Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. In the opposed, that motion carries. Just take one moment. Being 7 o'clock, we'll go right into the public hearings. The first one is utility public hearing. Comcast of Southern New England request for new, oh, I'm sorry, the first one is general public hearing. Ordinance, create energy manager position and salary, Division of Planning and Development. Entertain a motion to waive the full reading by Council Leahy, seconded by Council Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Second reading by title, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in City Council is an ordinance. Ordinance creating one full-time position of energy manager and the salary therefore in the Department of Planning and Development. What is the wish of the body? Excuse me, motion. Got to open the hearing, sorry. We'll begin by opening this portion of the public hearing. For those wishing to speak in favor. Those wishing to speak in favor? Those wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, that portion of the hearing is closed. Now entertain and open that portion of the hearing for those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? Those in opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the meeting is now closed, the hearing. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Roll call.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes?
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
9 yeas. Next item on the agenda is a utility public hearing. We'll go to Comcast Southern New England request a new handhole and cable at 5 Merrimack Street. Again, motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. Second reading by title. Request new handheld and cable at 5 Merrimack Street. I will now open that portion of the hearing for those wishing to speak in favor.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Timothy Broderick, Comcast, 55 Concord Street, North Reading, in favor of the petition. Would you like me to read it, or?
No, I don't think so. If there are any questions from the members of the council, I'm not sure if there are. Maybe you can just give a brief description of this request,
Yes,
if you
sir.
could.
So this is to provide service to 5 Merrimack Street. We're going to excavate and intercept an existing conduit on Merrimack Street, build a structure, a manhole, traffic type manhole to support traffic going over it, and then do a lateral into the basement of the building and build our structure inside to provide service to that building.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Now open that portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? In opposition, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Motion to refer to the wire inspector by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Still under utility public hearings, we have S&R Corp. and Lowell Central Electric for Demoulas Foundation to install 4 new telephone ducts along Dublin Street. Okay. That is the second reading. So we'll now open that portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor.
My name is Robert Maria, 26 Montague Avenue, Lowell. I represent Lowell Central Electric, S&R, and B. Worthen Realty Trust. These conduits are needed on Dublin Street, approximately 40 feet north of Adams and approximately 60 feet south of Adams, for the purpose that they were actually forgotten when we were doing our depressing our utilities between Phase 3 and Phase 4. Phase 3 was done about 3 years ago, and Phase 4 was done last year. And in order for the Verizon and Comcast to be able to finish their work and take down the utility poles, we have to put in 100 lateral feet of conduit, and there'll be 4 conduits in the trench. If there's any questions, I can attempt to answer.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Now open that portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? In opposition, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Motion to refer this item as well to the wire inspector for report and recommendation by Council Belanger, seconded by Council Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, still under public hearings, utility public hearing, is a request from Verizon for underground conduit at 585 Merrimack Street. I will now open that portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the record, my name is Everett Bryan. I'm a right-of-way engineer with Engineering and Data Solutions representing Verizon New England at 20 Shattuck Road in Andover. Our petition this evening is to place approximately 40 feet of underground conduit from an existing manhole across Moody Street to serve number 581 Merrimack Street. This is a new building. And we referred this to the city engineer, and I think we got his recommendation on it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is now closed. Now open that portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in opposition. Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is now closed. Motion to refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation by Council Leahy, seconded by Council Martin. All those in favor?
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, Council Martin?
Yeah, I didn't want to second the motion. I want to abstain from this vote.
Oh, okay. Motion, I'm sorry about that. Motion by Council Leahy, seconded by Council Martin.
Mr. Mayor?
I mean, Council Mercia, cheapest go. Did you want to speak on it, Council?
No, and I think Councilor Milanazzo's trying.
Also abstain.
Oh, also abstain.
I'd like
Okay.
to speak on it if I could.
You're not going to speak on it?
Please.
Okay. Motion to refer by Council Leahy, seconded by Council Mercia. On the motion, Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The representative from Verizon, it's not to do with this particular vote on a public hearing, but when in the city, if power lines are down or telephone wires are down, I know that Verizon handles those on their own. I've had an instance in the city on Pollard Street, which wires have been down for 4 weeks. I communicated that to the city manager and to our DPW, and I was told that Verizon was contacted 3 weeks ago concerning these down wires. Speaking to Assistant City Manager Snow, he said that the wires now are wrapped around the telephone pole, but it's still not repaired, but they're still down. Is 4 weeks, is that too long of a time? Is that the usual time to get something fixed like that?
Could you say the name of the street again?
Sure, Pollard, Pollard. And the address is 12 Pollard Street.
It sounds like it should be. I don't know the details, so I don't know what all is involved. I can refer this to our engineering department and have them look at it, or have someone from installation and maintenance look at it and see what the problem is.
Yeah, it just seems like it's difficult to, when something is done. I know our workers can't, touch those wires because they don't belong to the city. But, if there's a way we could, give a contact number to our city manager, so, if the DPW can't get through to Verizon, I'm sure, we would have no problem calling as well. It's just, it seems that almost a month is a very long time to, to get to something that could be, possibly dangerous to the residents of the neighborhood.
Certainly, it sounds like it is. I'll do what I can to get you an answer on that to the city manager within the week.
Great, thank you, sir.
I'll say Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, I don't know if it's Verizon or National Grid, so I don't want to shoot the messenger that comes here and asks for our support on something, but I have received a call from people on Frida Lane that two telephone poles, the lights are out. And the reason the lights are out isn't because the city failed to go over there on a particular Thursday and see if the filament was damaged or whatever, but it's got to do with underground cable, and you're asking for underground here, conduit. And it has been on the list for over 2 years now. These people are in the dark, and it is creating a hardship for these people. I think 2 years is a long time to wait, and I'm wondering why we're not seeing National Grid or Verizon come before us to ask permission to dig in the ground. I don't even care if you ever ask for permission, but I would like these people to actually see the light of day, light of night. We're not seeing that, and I'm getting nowhere, and I'm asking them, please call me and keep me updated. They're keeping me updated all the time. It's like 315 Frida Lane, and it's underground cable wires that is preventing the lights from lighting, and it's very unfair to those ratepayers that have, and it isn't just one pole, it's 2 poles, and they're very frustrated for over 2 years. So I don't want to shoot the messenger, sir. I have nothing against you. You're a wonderful gentleman, but I need some help here.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'll report that to Mass Electric
Pole
because
number 13 and 15. If you could help me out and be my contact guy, you'd be the best guy of the day.
I'll see what I can
Thank
do.
you.
It won't involve Verizon, but I'll get Mass Electric on
Okay,
it.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Council, I think the manager, Mr. Manager,
Oh,
can you be the guy of the day?
Well, Mr. Marchand's going to be the guy of the day. He just showed me an email from National Grid that it confirmed that they made those repairs today.
today?
Today.
How convenient.
So I know, so.
Wonderful.
should be
That's
all
great.
set.
Thank
When
you.
you speak,
All right,
Counselor.
Henry. Here, your job is done. That was quick action.
So they should have light, they'll have light. They should have light tonight.
Oh, my God.
Well, if they don't have light tonight, Council Mercy
They'll
will
be
let you
calling me,
know
I'm
tomorrow.
telling you that. Thank you.
Okay, we're all set on, we're all set. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, communications from the city manager. We have a communications summary, 4.1, along with motion responses, A through N. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We received a memo. I'm concerned about response to motion D, Water Department audit. We received a memo regarding the Water Department audit from Hannah York, our relatively new city auditor, explaining that the Water Department audit is financial in nature and it doesn't cover auditing their process and procedures. So my question would be, so who does the operational audit or the facility audit at the Water Department? Do we know who does that? I know that they get the state does a sanitary survey, and they do that every year. I will be talking about that in my motion, right.
If we determine that an operational, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, if we determine that an operational audit was necessary, then we would send out a RFP for some firm, an independent firm to come in and do an operational audit. Right now, we're in the process, and we're very close to hiring a new executive director at the water utility, and one of the first things that we'll do is determine whether an independent audit is necessary.
If we had conducted an operational audit, would we then have known that the people that were supposed to be trained in Munis were actually not?
Probably.
So I think it's quite necessary that something is done to make sure that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed.
Sure.
Thank you.
Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager on Communication E, RFP process, or the school administration offices. Very good news on that front, that it's coming back to the downtown. I think that bodes well for all the businesses, especially to those on Merrimack Street, and I think that's very, very exciting. But I do have a question. From what I understand, the parent teacher offices is going to occupy the first floor retail of Merrimack Street?
Mr. Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. The Family Resource Office, I believe is
Family,
what it's
okay,
called.
I'm sorry, family. Although I feel this is a very much a necessity, this office, I don't feel, I mean, these are first floor, street level, storefronts. I'd like to see, I understand it's vacant now, I mean, I realize that, but I'd like to see a for-profit business in there rather than a neighborhood teacher that's going to close at 4 o'clock. Is that written in stone, Mr. Manager? What can we do about this? As needed as it is, I agree, but I don't think this is a place for it. Is that part of the bargain, so to speak?
Mr. Manager?
Through you, Mayor, I'd love to see a for-profit business there also, but we don't have someone right now that's looking for that space. I know that they like the convenience of the first floor for the families to go in, but I'll certainly talk to the school department and see if it's necessary. But I do believe that's, when they did have their family resource before, it was on the first floor. And I think they like it on the first floor. But I'll certainly talk to them and express our concerns.
Please do, Mr. Manager. I mean, I believe the building has elevators. If there's room, I know no one likes vacant storefronts. That's all we seem to hear. I get it. But this is not an answer to our problem. This will do nothing for, I mean, overall, it's great. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good here. But if we can move that to the second, third floor, that would be nice, quite frankly. So I look forward to your response, Mr. Manager. Thank you very much.
You know, Council, as a member of the school committee, I can share some information. One of the criteria in the RFP was specifically to have ground floor access for the hundreds of parents that do have to go to this Family Resource Center to register their children, to get bus passes, to get the services on a regular basis. So the criteria was on a ground floor, centrally located, for parents to easily access, that service. And if it's on the ground floor of the Rogers School, and you can see there are 4 or 5 stations set up, so it's knowing we have thousands and thousands of kids in the school system, parents do having lower level access was important. So for the
Okay,
parents.
I understand that logic, but where is it now currently? Is this open year-round too, by the way? Is this office, is it open year-round?
This office is open year-round. Students have to go get their working papers at this location. I mean, the list does, it's very busy. I can attest to that.
Okay.
So right now, it's currently housed on the ground floor of the Rogers School. Prior to that, it was on the street level at the Bon Marché.
Okay, if
But
it's part of the bargain.
I understand your point, but
It
Mr. Vaughn, did you want to add?
Okay, thank you.
Well, the RFP, as you spoke, Mr. Mayor, was designed to have the convenience for the students and their families to be able to register all year long. It's a very busy office, and the school asked for that to be on the ground floor. There is additional space in that Bon Marché building, but it would be a combination of working back with the school department, Mr. Lang, to see if they would entertain that.
I'll say Council Belanger?
Yes,
No,
I think Council.
I understand your point. Council Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would want to remind everybody that the school committee really responded to a motion from the city council that they consider downtown space in their RFP process. And I think when the RFP was drawn up, that it included first floor space. And I think that probably we need to be happy that they are going downtown and that we're going to have that many workers down there. The school department is the one that decided that they needed some first floor space, and I think that the amount of first floor space is minimal. Nevertheless, maybe in a year or two we'll be in a position where, or the people that own the property downtown will be in a position where they'll be looking to move the school department out of the first floor space because retail space will be at a premium. But I think that for right now, we should be happy with the way the RFP went, and that we are going to have those people downtown every day.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Oh, okay. Oh, Mr. Martin.
Council Martin, then back to you, Council Belanger.
Thank you. Do we know, I mean, this office was on the first floor in the past. It was in the Bon Marché building, but it actually has a separate entrance on Kirk Street. Do we know if it's that space and not the bookstore space? Is it the bookstore space?
It's the bookstore space.
All right. And the,
CTI is actually in that other spot.
okay. Thank you.
Council Belanger, then Council Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand Councilor Kennedy's comments. Look, there's a lot of good here. I'm the one that lobbied very, very hard to make this come downtown, and there's a lot of good here. But I did have a question where I think Councilor Martin alluded to that. When the administration office did occupy the Bon Marché previously, it was on the first floor retail? I don't recall, quite frankly.
Yes.
It was?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Manager, I mean, absolutely, if it's the trade-off that's necessary, then I'll accept it. But nonetheless, a much-needed service. I would like to see it on a second and third floor, which I feel it belongs, not on a retail store with storefront windows, where I feel a for-profit business should be. But if it's part of the bargain, then I guess we'll have to live with it. But I look forward to your response. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Council Leahy, and then Council Milonazo.
Couple of items. So first item is C with the response for Andover Street. So that happens.
Councilor, is
to
this
be-
on? Is this still on the school administration?
No, it's just my questions on, do you want to do school?
Can we get?
Yeah,
can we
I'll-
just wrap
yeah,
up
go
this one, and then we'll go back to your?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council Leahy. I'll be brief. I just want to say that I understand where Councilor Belanger is coming from, and as noted by Councilor Kennedy, maybe someday that we would have first floor retail looking to come into the downtown. Again, these property owners, both very good property owners, Bon Marché and Mr. Bertos across the street, responded to the RFP. And the vote is actually on tonight's agenda, that we would actually authorize the school department to proceed with the lease of the property for the school administration offices. It was mentioned that, a nonprofit is going in there. That's correct, but they are paying fair market rent for the space. So, again, based upon the fact that they did go through the process, I was happy to see that they actually divided into two buildings, because there was some talk that's in CTI's over on Kirk Street on the first floor street where this used to be located, that this might have actually gone into the former UMass Lowell bookstore space, which, again, I'm hoping that someone will actually put a retail store in that space. I'm hoping that will happen. I can understand, though, again, that where Council Belanger's coming from, and respect that position. But again, at the end of the day, these property owners did go through the RFP process, and it's before us tonight, and I do plan to support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councilor.
Just
what is-
slight
Mr. Vaughn?
clarification, both those two buildings at the end of this process will be fully occupied.
I think it's important to note that while offices are going back to, locations in the Bon Marché building, there is a significant amount of savings to be had from when they once occupied it to what it is now, and I believe it's well in excess of 100,000. Mr. Vaughn, do you know that, or Mr.
I know that
Manager?
this one's for 425,000 roughly, and I believe it was over 600 before, but I
believe
don't
it-
want to tell you it was the same amount of
656.
square footage.
Right.
Just
So
not
there's significant savings, and I think that's also an added bonus to doing this. Thank you. Any other questions on the school administration lease? Okay, Council Leahy, on other motions?
Yep, thank you. So on item C, I read the report and I kind of understand where we're coming from, but I think we just need to go a step further. So I'm down in Newburyport and they have these solar crosswalks there, and I think we have some at our schools now. Could we find out how much that would be to install them there? Because, I understand the numbers here. It says maybe 15 kids cross a day. But, that's my neighborhood. Whenever it looks safe, there's always somebody speeding down the road. And then there's always some kid stuck in the middle of the road. There's people walking. It just seems that we need to go a step further. This has been a hot button for a few of the neighbors, and we've got a ton of emails on this. and we really need to do something there. So the lines were just painted. I was thinking that if the white lines were repainted, makes the road seem a little smaller. I mean, we just need to do something over there. So, and I know this isn't just a problem on Andover Street, it's on Stevens Street, it's on Barnum Ave, it's everywhere. But where Andover Street is before us, I'd like to really, just go the full distance on this, see how much maybe those solar pedestrian cross lights are. If they're in the right position, I think they need to be southwest or southeast facing to get a full charge, but, let's see what we can do over there. I'd appreciate that. And then I had a
Hey,
question.
Council Leahy, there's, on that motion,
Sure.
response, we have Council Samaras and then Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. This was your motion, Mayor Elliott, and I support Council Leahy's question on this. I too am concerned. The thing that I'm concerned about also is speed. Actually, Council Leahy previously had spoken about how on 133, many parts of 133 are down to 25 miles an hour. And I think we should reconsider that, where the engineers have stated that it would not, the number of people using the crosswalk wouldn't warrant a major expenditure. I'm still concerned that down the road, something's going to happen. I use that road every day, and it's quite often driving the speed limit, there's somebody in my back ready to go through me. And I think if we could just slow the mileage down to, say, 30 miles an hour, that would help out quite a bit in that area. I'd like to see that be considered at this particular time, because it's one thing to say it's minimally used, but it's become a dangerous road, and I've seen too many near accidents. Maybe we haven't had as many as we might perceive happening, and I believe the traffic engineers when they state that only so many things have happened. But I've seen a lot of near accidents, and I think we want to ensure that our children are safe, and I'd like to see the Councilor Leahy's mention of slowing the traffic down possibly be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do like the progress that we've been making up there. I know it's, as Council Leahy stated, it's been quite a topic there for the parents who have children crossing that street, and it's justifiable. It's a very busy street. There's no two ways about it, and the traffic is not going to be cut down anytime soon. But we can exercise more safety there with measures such as Councilor Leahy stated, which I do support. But, we just need good outreach here to the Riley School, to outreach to the kids and parents that please use the crossing guard at the top of Douglas. There is a crossing guard there. And to please utilize that to the fullest. I mean, I grew up on the East Merrimack Street. I went to the Riley School, kindergarten through 6th grade. I crossed this street when it was 2 lanes going both ways, 4 lanes total. So you need to exercise safety. There's no two ways about it. But I like the direction we're going, but I just think we need more outreach, and it's been determined by traffic engineers who put those electronic mile-per-hour boards up for us, and there's one there this week, and there has been for some time. So we have answered to the call of the concerned parents in the neighborhood. And the average speed limit, it does not seem to be an issue, that speeding is an issue. I think parents will say differently, but this is what the data tells us. But I'm not saying, believe me, we do nothing, but I just think that there's a little bit more we can do. We're going in the right direction, but let's make this safe. But there are other issues too, whether it's people behind the wheel texting and not paying attention. It could be a cause for a near rear end. There are other issues here, and it's not speeding entirely, as the perception say would be in the neighborhood. But nonetheless, we're working hard. I think we're going in the right direction, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on this motion response? No? Council Leahy, another motion response?
Yep, thank you. So, F, the plan to deal with the bridges over the canals, is anybody here to speak on that? Because
What I'd like to do is just continue this the bridge motion response and also the flashboard motion response to the next council agenda, because the engineer is on vacation this week, and at the next meeting should be available to answer any specific questions that the council would have. But I'll have that back on the agenda for 2 weeks from now, those two motions.
All right, that'll be good for that then. All right, that's all my questions then. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I had something under communications, but that's the next section, Mayor?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Thank you, Council. Council Marcia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I want to thank the manager and Diane Trad for responding to the concourse and the cement that's in deteriorating condition around the concourse inside LaLasha Park. The response is that the masonry repairs will begin in the end of July and be completed by September, and they will be, it shall be free of any trip hazards, which is a good thing, and then they'll do, it outlines all the work that'll be done and the cost and everything, and I'm very grateful about that. Thank you. And if there's no response to anybody to this issue here, there's a petition response to number J under motion responses, and it's the timeline and information regarding the property at 96 Alma Street. We did get a response on that. In conjunction with that, we have a woman that's registered to speak, and I don't feel that I'd like to have her here all night, so if I could tie that in together and suspend the rules and allow the woman to come forward, because we do have an explanation. I know I certainly checked into it, and I have a response as well, and I don't want her here all night, but if we could suspend the rules and allow the woman to speak. She is Sharon Janda. If we could suspend the rules and allow her.
Yeah, absolutely. Motion to suspend the rules by Council Mercy, seconded by Council Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. If you could just state your name and address for the record, for the clerk.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors. My name is Sharon Jander. I live at 84 Lafayette Street in Pawtuckville. Right now, there's construction being done at 96 Alma Street. My concern is not only this build, but their intention to build at 87 Lafayette Street during the 2006 Mother Days flood. And a butter to my house built a home which was supposed to have a flow-through basement. However, at that time, the builder brought in fill and raised the original height of the lot. As a result of the runoff, now causes water problems to certain areas in my home anytime there is heavy rainstorms. Because of this, I am very concerned about the construction at 96 Alma Street, but also the potential construction on 87 Lafayette Street, not only for myself, but for my neighbors as well. This will especially affect the residents at 99 Rosemont and 104 Alma Street, who are the abutters to this lot. And it will affect more homes if the construction is allowed on Lafayette Street. After seeing the amount of fill being put down for this build, it is now not just me, but it is all the neighbors in the community that the builder of this house is not considering the effect that this will have in our neighboring home. Naturally, as some of you may know, this is having very negative effect on these people that survived the 2006 flood, and it is still very much in our memory. Being concerned, I went to the City Hall to review the building plans for this house. From what I could gather from the pictures, the house on the plans and the house that is on the building site are totally different. Also, the contractor that I was speaking to had mentioned to me that the driveway would be installed on Rosemont, but the plans show the driveway is on Alma Street. If the driveway is on Alma Street, will it be too close to the catch basin? Okay, the contractor told me that the home doesn't need any kind of drainage system. The height is going to be 38 feet, and it is going to tower over the existing home at 99 Rosemont. The height is supposed to be 36 feet. The original amount of the stories was 2.5. Now it is 3 stories high. My neighbor at 104 Alma Street, Janet Paz, has photos and documents to add to this comment. Thank you.
Hi, thank you Mayor, City Manager, Councils. Both Sharon and I attended the July 8th council meeting, and I spoke of the neighborhood concerns of these homes being built. Since then, I have been told many conflicting stories by conservation, planning, as well as the builder. I felt the extreme need to speak again to show you pictures of laws and topography that have been so grossly neglected that someone needs to do something about it now, not later or by saying we're sorry, it must have been overlooked. You don't build a house to withstand a flood. You take into the equation the entire floodplain and the neighborhood and the effect it's going to have on us. These, I have pictures from day one, which quite coincidentally happened 2 days after the July 8th meeting here. That's when they broke ground without a knock on the door to tell us they were doing it, nothing. Just they came in, took down a fence, came in with the, I don't know what you call it, the front loader maybe, and started digging. The house at 99 Rosemont, which is in the middle of the lot when you see the pictures, they were home. They have an animal, they're right in the middle of this lot. It's just, you have to see it to believe it, is really. And if you look at these pictures, I have from day one, and then I also have the picture from planning that my husband and Sharon went today, and the picture that they have on the fence of what the house is going to look like is totally different from the house that the plans say they are. Everything is different. And it's just, you know, there's story after story after story. And, you know, something's wrong with this picture. Something is drastically wrong. So I don't know how I can show.
Sure, if you could just hand those to Council Mercier. And
Okay, and then this one has certain things that are really important. This says, the project involves construction of a single-family dwelling on a 7,000 square foot lot in a residential neighborhood. The work includes a driveway, connection to municipal utilities such as gas, water, sewer, and electric services, and the site will be fully landscaped with loam and seed. However, the site is shown on FEMA flood maps to be in a 100-year floodplain. Under the Wetlands Protection Act and the City of Lowell bylaws, a filing must be made with the Conservation Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals for work in the 100-year floodplain. And I just highlighted a couple of things. One is a series of openings in the concrete panels will be provided for smart vents, which will provide an open, non-clogging conduit for floodwaters to pass into the garage areas. This was not done. The house volume will be compensated in two ways. First, a portion of the on-site earth material will be removed from the site. Sorry, I'm nervous. Then a segmented steel vault will be placed underground with storage volume in chambers directly proportional and in elevation increments to the floodwater displacement volume created by the house foundation. That was not done. In addition, a dry well for additional storage volume and for drainage is provided at the low point of the property. The applicant is required to provide a copy of the superseding order of conditions. According to the SOC, the applicant is required to ensure that all areas within the 100-year floodplain, including the proposed driveways, are to remain at existing grades.
Councilor Mercier?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sometimes we do a little research, and the answers that we get probably are something that you probably wouldn't want to hear, and I have Eric Slagle there, because I checked into this to see what was this all about and how unfair this seemed to be. And what I found out was that the people that are digging on that property at 96 Alma Street, they have a valid permit to dig, and start the foundation, so they're not doing anything that they're not supposed to do. They filed and got 2 approvals, one from the Conservation Commission and one from the Zoning Board approved, but only with conditions. The DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, they questioned the decision of the ZBA, and they took over jurisdiction and did a review, and reviewed the conditions and allowed the people to build on stilts. The state did allow them to build on stilts, but the issue with the DEP was the height of the building. After review, the Department of Environmental Protection allowed them to come back and lower the height of the building.
Raised it.
They raised it?
Raised it. It's right on the plans.
Well, there's a special clause in here because of the devastation and hardship that was incurred between 2006 and further events. From 2006 to, I believe, 2012 or 2011?
2008 to
2008. Between those years, it excluded them from notifying abutters. I thought that was strange that you weren't notified, but they did everything within, and Eric can explain this, but he did explain to me the reasoning
That's okay.
for it. So if he could explain some of the things to you and look into some of the new conditions that she made us aware of.
Sure. With respect to the allegations that they're not complying with their plans, I will certainly have an inspector out to take a look at the work on site right now.
Right.
With respect to their permits, they have a valid permit, as the counselor mentioned. The Permit Extension Act allowed their 2010 approval from DEP to still be valid. They've got, I think they technically have until 2017 within which to begin action under the superseding order of conditions. That applies to the property on Alma Street as well as the property on Lafayette Street. It's identical proposals. The same builder owns both lots. He proposed identical structures on the lots. They have not filed for a building permit for the lot on Lafayette Street, but our anticipation is that they will, and for the same reasons that the building on Alma Street was granted a foundation permit, the building on Lafayette Street will, if they apply for a building permit, be granted a foundation permit. They have a valid a superseding order of conditions from the Department of Environmental Protection.
Is this the original owner from 2006? That's building now, or is it somebody new?
I believe it's a new owner, but I don't know that for sure.
Would these rules apply to just the original owner?
No. The Permit Extension Act means that any permit that is validly given exists for as long for an additional 4 years on top of the original approval, and you can sell a property with the superseding order of conditions, and the new owner is allowed to build under that order.
All right, so if the DEP said, we don't agree with the Zoning Board of Appeals, we want you to lower the height, and I would like that checked out to see if they're complying with what the state said. The state wants them to lower the height, and yet they're telling me that they're raising it.
Well, I can, like I said, I will certainly have an inspector go out and take a look at the property tomorrow to make sure that they're compliant with their permits. The DEP actually took jurisdiction from the Conservation Commission. The Zoning Board originally denied this request, but the reason they were for the Zoning Board was because of the height of the structure. They submitted an amended plan that lowered the height of the structure, so they no longer needed Zoning Board approval. So they didn't need to go back in front of the Zoning Board. They complied with all the requirements by their superseding order.
And they didn't need to notify abutters.
The notification was made back in 2010. That was the only time there was a public process, was back in 2010, when the abutters were notified of both the Conservation Commission proceeding and the Zoning Board of Appeals proceeding. I believe the abutters actually attended some of the hearings. But they weren't required to give any further notification once they got that superseding order of conditions from DEP.
But if you could talk to the people.
Like I said, I will absolutely have an inspector out there tomorrow morning to make sure that they're complying with the permits, their valid permits that they've been granted.
Mm-hmm. Can I say something? In 2010, we stood before everyone here, a lot of you here, and we were told we did not have to worry about this for 2 years. And we would definitely be notified again. We sat around for, basically a month waiting for a letter until I saw the dig safe lines. And I was like, something's going on. I'm not a professional builder or anything, but I do know that plans are plans and a plot is a plot. And you can't change something that says it's going to be one way and then do it another way. And this house looks nothing like this house. And this is the house on the street that says it's being built, and this is the house that the permit was given to.
Again, like I said, the plans that were presented to the city of Lowell are the plans that were approved under the DEP superseding order of conditions. So I will have an inspector out to take a look at the property tomorrow to ensure that what they're constructing is in compliance with those plans.
And can they change, I just really want to know too also, can they change where a driveway is?
I am not intimately familiar with this superseding order of
Okay.
conditions, so I don't know what that order, which again is the only order that they were issued is the superseding order of conditions. I don't know what that order says about the driveway.
Right, well, I'm just saying, this is 6/10/2014. It clearly has the driveway on Alma Street, and he's putting it on Rosemont Street. That's huge to me. And I don't know, I know you're gonna look into it, and I don't mean to be rude or anything, but I really think that you guys should take a ride down to the Rosemont Terrace area and just see it up close and personal. You would not believe it.
I just wanted to respond to a couple of things. The first
Yep.
is, if you were informed that they had to wait 2 years, that's because after a denial of the zoning, of
Yep.
a zoning board permit, there's a 2-year moratorium on
Right.
bringing an identical application before the zoning board. So if you were told you had to wait 2 years, that was why, because they couldn't bring the same plan in for 2 years, and they didn't. They brought in a plan that was different, that didn't require zoning board
Right,
approval.
so they wouldn't have to come in to here.
They
and
wouldn't have
then
to go to the
They
zoning
can do whatever they want when they get to the lot.
For purposes of the proposed driveway, if the superseding order of conditions does not address the driveway, they can put the driveway wherever
Wherever they want?
whatever they get a permit to put the driveway for. So if they get a permit to put the driveway out on Rosemont, and that's something that the driveway permits are issued by the city engineers department. If they get a permit to put it out on Rosemont and it's not addressed in the superseding order of conditions, they are entitled to put the driveway where they apply and obtain a permit to put the driveway.
All right, so how as we as a neighborhood, do we call planning every day and say, is somebody planning on building a house on 87 Lafayette so we can appeal it? That's what I'm looking for. This was done out the back door, and nobody's gonna tell me different, because everybody was in the dark. All of a sudden, they were there. And that's not how you do things. As far as, the fire, an example of the fire, that was a horrific thing. All right? That whole community came together. In 2006, this whole community came together for us. And now it's 2014. That's all I have to say. And we haven't forgotten it. And I don't think you guys should either. That's all.
Can I say something? I live at 84 Lafayette Street. Now, I know I was speaking to the gentleman that bought the land, okay? And he told me that if everything goes well on Elmer, he will purchase the land on Lafayette Street also. If he purchased that land on Lafayette Street and wants to build a home, the same condition that this one here is in, my home at 84 Lafayette Street is at the lowest point of that area. When we have rain, that sewer just watches. It looks like the Merrimack River just right out in front of my house. And that sewer just goes over. And I've seen Rosemont, the corner of Rosemont Street, Alma, all of them. That water does not go down that catch basin as fast as it should. We had rain last week. You could walk out there and the rain would be halfway up your calves because that intake for those catch basins aren't doing its job. They never even came down Lafayette Street and, did any construction on the road. They were right on Rosemont. They did all of, Elmer Street. Lafayette Street is like nothing. I complained because, the guy next door, he bought the home, he did a beautiful job, rented it out, thought it was going to be a family. Nope, it's college students. And that's what a lot of people are concerned about this property right here, because anybody can buy the house. And anybody can do what they want in the house. Just like I can do what I want in my house. But if you do anything outside, forget it. You have to go down, you got to get a permit, you got to do this. I tried to get loom delivered to my house. If you go in between both my house and the two-family, you can see how, the grade of the ground is completely changed. If one you go this height and it drops down, you know what I mean? And I can't do anything to my property to bring it up. The house that was built after the flood was a little house. You look at it now, it has a 2-car garage. It's high, When I look at this one here is gonna overwhelm that one, big time.
So, Mr. Slagle, can you, once you send an inspector out, can you ensure that you'll be in touch with Ms. Chandra and Ms. Paz on what you find and, address their concerns and questions?
Sure, absolutely. We will reach out and let everyone know that if we had to take any remedial steps or whether or not things are in compliance. And I just want to make it clear that for 87 Lafayette, if they propose the same plan that they're putting on 96 Alma, there will not be a further public process. They don't need to get any permits from any other public board. There won't be another public hearing. They can simply apply for the building permits and receive them. They do have to put up a sign, but they can receive those permits.
Okay, great. So, Ms. Paz and Ms. Chandra, please, be in touch with Inspectional Services. So I presume sometime tomorrow afternoon if you get an inspector out in the morning.
It may be the day after before I get a chance to respond, but
okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Oh, there's someone else wants to speak, and then we'll go to councilors.
I'm Amy Perry. I live on 99 Rosemont Street. And, sorry, this is very difficult for me. I'm the house right in the middle of the two properties. And our major concern is that there's now a grate going right down in our lawn. And the thought of having two houses that just go right into our yard where we already have flooding on, our house is over 100 years old. We were not a part of the flood. We were lucky. We bought the house after, but we have spent thousands upon thousands of dollars to fix the entire house. And the thought of having two houses just go, like we're just this little lake. That's what we already get so much water. We already get water in our basement. We don't put anything too big in there, but the idea that the builder told us yesterday, we would have had 21 days to appeal this. We never heard anything, and he said it wasn't him. It was somebody in the city that was supposed to show us, and he showed me the paperwork. Our names were on there that we were supposed to receive mail. We never did. Something is not right, and we just really want to make sure that I understand the permit process, but we should have had a way of appealing it, and we never had a way. That something to be graded right down to our lawn is just not okay. That's making us feel like our house is not important, and I know that you feel it is. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for speaking. Council Kennedy, Council Belanger, and Council Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When you get the superseding order of conditions, do you actually get that? In other words, what they've done is just said, all right, we're going to throw out the Conservation Commission's decision, and we're going to give you this new order of conditions, and if you comply with that, then you can build the house. That's essentially what happens, right? And that's what the state does.
Yes, the Conservation Commission had originally approved it. The superseding order was issued because the conditions were appealed. The conditions that the Concom put on it were appealed. DEP takes jurisdiction and they issue a superseding order, and there's no longer any jurisdiction for the Conservation Commission.
Who appealed the conditions that the Conservation?
I believe it was the property owner, but I am not 100% sure. I believe it was.
And so, do you actually get a copy of the superseding order of conditions?
When superseding, yes, we do.
Okay, and so when you get that, don't you police that site to make sure they're in compliance? or-
Absolutely.
Okay, but so is that something that we haven't done yet, that we're, in other words, I guess what I'm asking is, does the builder just get out and say, I got a superseding order of conditions, and you say, okay, and you give them the permit, and then that's it? Or do you say, well, let me see the superseding order of conditions, and then somebody goes up periodically and makes sure that the builder is in compliance? I mean, I guess what strikes me is that the builder is bringing a lot of loam in, and that ends up being okay, and I don't know if that would have been in the superseding order.
Well, the latter is true. We do have inspectors that go out and we get the superseding order of conditions. We had it before they applied for their foundation permit. And so once we obviously didn't do any inspections until their foundation permit was issued. And since that time, we have done periodic inspections, both building inspectors and with Conservation Commission staff.
Okay, so you do that?
Yes.
All right, so why are we sending somebody out there tomorrow?
Well, the allegations that there is a sign up that is somehow different than what was approved is not something I ever heard. But the inspectors that were there have not mentioned it to me, so I'm going to have an inspector out tomorrow.
Can you explain why, because they had to get a superseding order of conditions for this site to build this house, why would they not have to do that for a new lot? Why are they able to build a second house at a different site without having to go through the same process again?
They did go through the same process.
Oh, for both houses?
For both.
They did it for
sites.
both in the first place,
Yes.
okay.
This property used to, the 3 lots, 99 Rosemont, and the 2 lots that were vacant, used to be 1 lot. An individual came in and subdivided the lot into 3, and then had proposals to build houses on both of the corner lots. And so the 96 Alma is the one they're proceeding on first, but they also went through the process for the Lafayette Street lot.
Okay, so, and they'll do that one probably after they sell the first one?
That would be my guess, yes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you, Council.
This is something I really
Thank you,
don't
Mr. Mayor.
understand. This
I'll
has
say,
the
Council.
superseding-
Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, Ms. Paz?
Yeah, this is right off the permit.
Excuse me.
Ms. Paz, can we just continue with questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Slagle now. Eric, how big is the lot on the subject property we're talking about?
I believe the lot is 7,000 square feet.
Okay, that's the minimum requirement to build a house in this neighborhood, correct?
Single-family house.
Single-family house, right. So, correct me if I'm wrong, the applicant could have he went to the front of the ZBA and the abutters were notified in 2010, correct?
Correct.
And they were in front of the ZBA for a variance for height, correct? So am I not mistaken when I say if they could have built a single-family home, 2-story, without even notifying abutters, just built the house free and clear, just pulling a permit without notifying anybody of anything, am I right?
Without going to the zoning board, I'm sorry, once they got their superseding order of conditions and decided that they weren't going to have a lower structure, they didn't need to notify.
Right, if they were lower structure, they would have needed ZBA approval, right? Correct. And then in turn, the neighbors wouldn't even have been, so my point is that if they didn't go for a height requirement, that they didn't need, they just needed a building permit. They didn't need other approvals to notify abutters. Unfortunately, that's the cold, hard reality here.
Other than the Conservation Commission proceeding, which they had to do, and they did notify the abutters, they weren't required to get a zoning board appeal to do this. They only did it because they wanted a higher structure.
Right. And so basically, they've unfortunately operated within the parameters of the law to this point.
Correct.
I mean, I was on the ZBA for 10 years. I recall these 3 lots being sliced up, attempted to be sliced up. Years ago, we denied it. I'm not sure what was the reason, but I'm very familiar with this. But this individual did nothing wrong. The requirement is 7,000 square feet. That's what this lot is. He could have went down, building department, pulled a permit for a 1- or 2-story home without question, besides conservation, correct?
Correct.
So from here on in, let's make sure he complies with what he said he was going to do. If he's trying to sneak in another level and raise the height, and then, we're going to be there to stop him. That's because to this point, we got nothing on him. And that's the reality of this. But let's get there tomorrow. Let's see that he's complying with what he said he's going to build, and to see that doesn't get out of text. So I know how the abutters feel. This is frustrating. You know, they had a big flood, and they don't want, you know, this was a vacant parcel for a long time, and people get used to it being vacant, but this falls within the requirements in the city to build a home, unfortunately. And that's the facts. But let's stay on him, Eric, and I know you'll do your job to make sure he complies and doesn't go overboard of what he said he was going to do. That's all I ask. Thank you very much.
Council Leahy?
Thank you. I just had a question from looking at the pictures, and they're talking about the grading. You can build the grade up on a lot? You're allowed to do that?
Well, generally speaking, I would defer to the superseding order of conditions, which, and the engineer's review of the plans. You're generally not allowed to build up the grade in the floodplain. It all depends on the specifics of the order of conditions that are issued by the DEP. I would doubt that they're allowed to build up the grade. That being said, temporary storage of excavation soil is not considered building up the grade. So I want to, you know,
right,
just because if they're digging out, yeah.
Looking at the pictures, it's obvious. It's like when they put in a pool, they raise the ground up, and that's what it looks like. So if you went over there tomorrow, and it looks like, you know, just to make it simple so people can understand, it looks like you're putting in a pool, and the level, I mean, that's not enough to stop them if they're gonna flood out somebody's house in the
No, if they are in violation of the superseding order of conditions, and again, I have to kind of defer to that as the DEP has exercised their jurisdiction, so what they say goes for purposes of how they're
And who says that now? That's the
Department of Environmental Protection. So that's the superseding order of conditions issued by the state, basically.
So the state inspector would have to come up and check the grade?
No, we have enforcement power over superseding order of conditions, but our Concom can't tell them to do something different than the superseding order of conditions.
What's an allowable grade, do you know?
I do not.
All right. I mean, it looks obvious that it's built up.
And again, I'll have an inspector take a look at it tomorrow, and the inspector assigned to that area has been aware of this project ever since it came across his desk. So he's been out to the site several times. I'll have him go out there again.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Mr. Slagle. Can you tell from the pictures that we were shown tonight if the basement is actually a flow-through basement?
I didn't see the pictures, and I have to be honest with you. Okay. Even if I saw them, I probably couldn't tell you if it was a flow-through basement.
I'm just wondering if the builder decided to appeal the order of conditions and then lowered the height of the building, therefore he didn't have to go back to the zoning board, and in doing so eliminated the need or the requirement, if you will, of the flow-through basement. That's one comment.
That would be no. The superseding order of conditions does not eliminate the requirement for those measures.
Okay. And then my second comment, and the last woman that spoke, I heard her say, or I thought I heard her say, that the builder showed her a list of, I thought she said 21 people that were supposed to be notified by the city. Can you confirm whether or not they were indeed supposed to be notified by somebody and they were not?
Again, the only time that any abutters would have been notified for this project was back in 2010. There has not been a public hearing on this project since the hearings for the Conservation Commission and the Zoning Board, and there was not a requirement for another public hearing before this permit was issued.
I'd be curious then if that just happened within the last couple of weeks where the builder showed this particular neighbor this list. That's disturbing to me if that did happen.
I have not seen the list, so I don't know what it is. My conjecture would be that it's an abutters list from the original, zoning board or conservation commission proceeding, but I haven't seen the list. So, but there has not been another public hearing that would require another notification.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Is it, on this type of product, do they have to put up the sign for the neighborhood showing them what they're doing?
On every project, you're required to put up a sign.
And I've asked this before, and so there's a project going up across from the funeral home on Pawtucket Boulevard, up across from O'Donnell's funeral home.
Okay.
Okay, so I've asked this before. You can't read the thing. So why do we go by one sign, one site, and you could read it from 50 feet away, and then we say they're in compliance, and you gotta walk up to it, probably about 2 feet to read it. How does that pass every time?
Well,
It happened up on, up on Stedman Street, you know, with the thing up there, and you couldn't even read it.
Yeah, the notice signs, the requirements for the notice signs are in the ordinance. Depending on the placement of the signs on the lot, that sometimes that's not sufficient to make it noticeable. I will have the
But I
inspector
mean, you
take a look
can't
at
even
that.
read it. It'd be right in front of me, and I couldn't read it without my glasses. That's my point. Isn't it supposed to be readable from 10 feet away or something, or 3 feet away?
Well, there's the provisions of the ordinance say what the sign's supposed to look like and the size of the sign and what it's supposed to contain. The spirit of the ordinance is that it should be readable. So if it's not, we usually tell them they need to go and replace the sign.
Can you check out the one up on the boulevard?
Sure.
Okay.
Further discussion? Okay, we're still on emotions, so thank you, Mr. Slagle and others. Please keep in touch with members of the neighborhood. Please keep in touch with the Inspectional Services Department. Further discussion on motion responses, Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regards to motion response H, the partnership between city inspections and the Lowell Police Department, I would like to ask Eric if you could speak on that, please.
Mr. Slagle, you're on tap again.
I apologize.
With regards to
yes,
the partnership between the City Inspection Developmental Services and the Lowell Police Department.
Sure. We responded to the motion, and part of my response, which all the councilors have, indicates, and I'm sorry that he's not still here. Artie Ryan and Bill Taylor, the deputy superintendent and the superintendent, both have been kind of vocal proponents of interdepartment communication, and our work on several different areas that I highlighted in the motion that demonstrates how we work together, not just with the police department, but we work together across different departments, including the fire department, we work with the treasurer's office, we work with many different departments in the city to ensure that we're doing the best for the residents to handle kind of problem issues that crop up. One of the main things that I highlighted in the response is the Problem Property Task Force. It's a regular convening of multiple departments, including police, fire, development services, along with the treasurer's office, the Lowell Stat, and MIS and the law department. We all meet together. We created the troubled property list, and at this time, the Problem Property Task Force has been in place for about a year and 3 months, I believe, something along those lines. And in that time, we've moved multiple properties on our top 10 list off the list because they've been resolved. And in part, that's due to the cooperation between our departments, and our work with the police department is one of the strengths of that. Kind of even more pertinent are the kind of more immediate responses that we do. And I know just in the current city manager's tenure, there have been several times when we have had issues come up where we put together a kind of an immediate response impact team as a result of some sort of criminal activity brought to our attention by the police department, either a shooting or some other activity on a particular property that was troubling to the police, but that we wanted to bring either kind of the entire weight of the city kind of code enforcement to bear on to attempt to bring change. And it's been incredibly successful. As soon as we get notification of a problem property that we can target in this fashion, we convene members of the police department, the fire protection division of the fire department, health inspector, building inspector, zoning enforcement officer, and at times we even bring in state agencies if we believe there's some pertinent thing for the state workers' compensation agency to do, or other state agencies, in an effort to get on site on the property, find any and all violations on the property, and try to effect some sort of immediate change to the property. without the assistance of the police department, it wouldn't be possible for us to kind of do those kind of rapid response impact teams that we do. And I think in the last few months, we've done at least 3 or 4 of these impact teams that have gone out. And I would defer to the police, but they could tell you that once we do those impact teams, they see a decrease in the number of calls they're getting from those properties because we're requiring them to bring them up to code, and that, by its very nature, kind of shifts the more harmful elements that are located on a property to some other site. Hopefully, some other site not in the city of Lowell. So it's really one of the things we've worked really hard. Since Development Services has been formed in 2010, it's been one of our focal points is to try to do interdepartment cooperation and communication, and the police department is one of the ones that we work with very well and on a lot of key situations.
Great, thank you. Yeah, the motion stems from what happened on Gorham Street, where inspections went on there and shut them down and leave the next day after a shooting. So it's good work, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Further questions on motion responses? Entertain a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to 4.2, communication from the city manager regarding comparison of snowplow and snow removal rates for FY 2014. Councilor Leahy?
Through you, the manager. I just had a question. I didn't see, and I see Commissioner Snows here. I had a question about the Bobcats and private contractors.
Could I just ask Mr.
Mr. Manager,
Mr.
Mr. Snow?
I do not see the Bobcats on here. I can get you that if I don't know why it's not here.
Okay.
But this was,
Because I guess we asked for this just to, to see what we're paying for rates, and it's for the budget purpose and stuff. I mean, my thing has always been with the Bobcats that I was curious how much we pay for them, if they're all private or if it's some city.
a good bit of them, and I don't know the exact numbers, belong to the Parks Department.
Okay.
We have one in Public Works, but we also have some that are under contract too.
Okay.
I can get you the rate. It's my mistake. I don't know why it's not here.
No, it's all right. I was just, because I was curious, my little pet peeve with that is sometimes I see them out doing the shoveling like during the storm, and, I certainly don't want to second guess what you're doing, because I know it's a big operation, but it just seems like sometimes the Bobcats are there, and then they're gone, and then the plows come in, and it kind of should be the other way around. So maybe the Bobcats could be there, but they need to be the last ones in, I'm thinking, because.
I agree with your philosophy 100%.
Okay, so-
It happens, like you said, it happens sometimes probably due to
Yeah.
a poor coordination or communication, but
All right.
it's something that we really need to do better on.
All right, because I didn't know if that would save us money if they're not out during, why would the Bobcat be out during the
Well,
storm? Should be,
You also have to think about how much snow you're gonna get. I mean, the
Right,
Bobcat
right.
can only move so much, so if you're gonna get a lot, he has to actually get out there earlier to keep the level
Sure, yeah.
manageable, so it's not,
Yeah.
each one is a little bit different, but in general, on a normal storm, if it's not too big, the plow should go and then the Bobcat should
Yeah.
go. But it depends, if there's gonna be school the next day, you're trying to keep up with it near schools and things, so it's always a
Yeah.
moving situation, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'll
Okay.
get you the rates on the Bobcats.
All
I'm
right,
sorry
thank
about
you.
that. Yep.
Okay, further discussion on that motion. Entertain a motion to accept the communication and place on file by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we could go back to suspension of the rules and and out of respect for a person so that they don't have to be here all night, is 9.6 under miscellaneous petitions. Ellen Collins is here.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules by Council Mercia, second by Council Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. That motion carries. The purpose is to take item 9.6 out of order on the agenda and take it now. Motion is under petitions, miscellaneous. Ellen Collins, request to address City Council regarding change of control of Demoulas Supermarkets. Ms. Collins, if you just state your name and address for the record.
Okay, good evening. My name is Ellen Collins. I live at 212 Parkview Avenue in Lowell. And although I'm an attorney admitted in Massachusetts and New York, I'm here on my own, representing myself. And the opinions I express are my own and no one else's. So I want to thank you for hearing this petition, on a matter of great controversy on no notice, or very little notice. So what I think I have slides somewhere. So he's doing that. I'll continue. This comes out of my background and experience kind of as a securities lawyer in New York. But I would like to request that you publicly support Arthur T. Demoulas and the associates of Market Basket, who have been fired by Demoulas Supermarkets, Inc. Over the past month. How do I do that? Ordinarily, I would view this as a conflict among shareholders of a private corporation that government should stay out of. But I believe there's much more at stake here. Embedded in the shareholder conflict are questions of values and how we do business in America, and ultimately about food prices in Lowell in the future. As we all know, Market Basket's a supermarket chain founded in Lowell, headquartered in Tewksbury, 71 stores in eastern Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. Over 25,000 associates, so they employ a ton of people, and over 4.6 billion in revenue, and over 2 million customers. And I've heard through the grapevine that their market share in certain areas in eastern Massachusetts is extremely high. I imagine we're one of them. I've heard the number. I won't state it because I don't know how it's calculated and I don't know how good it is. So as customers, we've all benefited from the way Market Basket is currently run. We get quality food at low prices and excellent service. In Lowell, low food prices are very important because compared to those in other cities and towns in Massachusetts, median household income in Lowell is lower. I think based on the federal statistics, it's probably about $51,000 a year. Now, from the We Are Market Basket website, they state that the average family of 4 saves $4,000 a year by shopping at Market Basket. So if you think about that savings in terms of median household income in Lowell, you know, that's a very significant percentage, probably around 8% or so. I believe that we get low prices and cost savings as customers because Market Basket has a unique business model for a company of its size. Market Basket appears to follow the same business model that, you know, the family business model that my dad ran his pharmacy business that way or under for like 35 years. So it's kind of like you know it when you see it. You know, in this model, the owner, the family, and an extended family of workers work together to buy products from vendors, sell them to customers at prices they can afford. In this model, customers come first, hard work is valued, and profits are shared among the owners and their extended family of workers. This is why the profit-sharing plan at Market Basket is such an issue. In this model, there's generally no debt or as little debt as possible is the preferred option. There are no unions, and very little time is spent on corporate formalities. At Market Basket, based on recent events that we've all read about, I believe that, you know, that company is moving to a different business model, same one that other supermarket chains have, which charge much higher prices. This is the model that, you know, this is the way corporations are run. It's the legal contractual model that divides the company up into shareholders, directors, officers, employees. Actually, if you could, oh, I have the thing. You know, that's Corporations 101. Many of you know that. Many of you don't, but it's time consuming. Basically, in this model, instead of having a family, you know, run the business, the board of directors runs the business on behalf of the shareholders and makes decisions based on what it believes is in the best interest of shareholders in accordance with the business judgment rule. Unlike the family business model where customers come first, in this prevailing model, shareholder interests come first. So, you know, my view is that if the new model is, you know, if they're successful in doing what they want, we'll get higher prices on food. They will maximize profits for shareholder and distribute them. And the evidence that the board has done this, or is headed in this direction, is the distribution of $300 million to shareholders in the fall, recent changes to the profit-sharing plan, and the recent firing of Arthur T. DeMoulis and 2 senior executives in June, and then 8 senior executives on Sunday afternoon, were fired summarily by courier. Even though they had spent 40 years working for the company and building the company. These people built Market Basket into what it is today. And, you know, the replacement of Arthur T. DeMoulis with Felicia Thornton as president suggests to me, in my view, that, you know, they could be in sale mode. You know, she's has prior experience in supermarkets, but you know, it's in the financial part of the business, and she is known for her mergers and acquisitions expertise. So, you know, I believe that the Lowell area in particular is better off if Demoulas Supermarkets retains the existing customer-oriented business model that focuses on low prices. You know, they've put in place a 4% discount that's, you know, in effect until the end of the year, but there's nothing that obligates them to continue that beyond that point. After that, you know, especially in this area, they could use their considerable market power to raise prices, you know, to almost the level of its competitors, and its competitors have considerably higher prices than Demoulas does. I think that if, you know, Arthur T. Demoulas is reinstated along with the other senior executives, there's less likelihood that Demoulas, you know, will be sold, that there'll be layoffs, and it's also the loss of a corporate headquarters in this area. So, and I also, you know, note that the current state of conflict is really, really bad for the local economy. So I believe that we as customers and, you know, citizens have a right to communicate with the board, to express our displeasure, you know, in particular with the summary firing of senior managers who've spent many years, you know, 40 years of their lives in some cases, working to build this business, and our desire to have them all reinstated. You know, people went through the petition process last year and, you know, even over the weekend, and so far the board has ignored, you know, our verbal entreaties. And, you know, I think right before I came here, Ms. Thornton released a statement, you know, where she basically said, you know, I agree with certain things that Arthur T. Demoulas said last night, but, you know, we're still firing these guys anyway because we believed they damaged the company, notwithstanding the 40 years or more of work that some of those people have put into building the company. So, you know, in the corporate business model where boards of directors make decisions and act in the best interests of shareholders, the only language a board, you know, if a board has common sense, it will listen. But the only form of communication that a board is obligated to understand is money. And the way, you know, we all can make them listen to our displeasure with the current situation and, you know, with what they, you know, I don't know what their plans are. I just see certain signs that are very familiar to me. You know, the way to convey our displeasure is to withhold our purchasing power, which causes a mess in the short run, but may lead to good results in the long run, especially in terms of food prices in Lowell, you know, for the future. So, you know, to conclude, I would ask that you as a city council, you know, subject to council's advice, publicly support the employees of Market Basket who are protesting to express their displeasure with the current situation. And if possible, you know, sign on to a letter or a similar letter signed by the members of the Massachusetts Senate, you know, which I feel is justifiable because Market Basket has kept food prices low and we want them to stay that way. And then I would ask that every time that, you know, we all go shopping, we think about the fact that we are sending a message to the board. If, you know, under the current circumstances, if we go to Market Basket, you know, we're telling them basically that things are fine and that we're okay with the firing of the executives who worked for 40 years to build the company via courier. By going elsewhere, it's a way of telling them that, you know, we're very unhappy with the way Demoulas is being run. And lastly, I would ask all of you to use your influence to try, may not be successful, to get the shareholders to resolve their differences, which of course hasn't occurred for 40 years, and perhaps call on local businessmen to see if there's any interest in, you know, buying out the shareholders who want to withdraw their capital, or finding some other way to replace their equity capital. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Council Samaras?
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. I want to thank Ms. Collins for her presentation tonight. Actually, I believe what's going on at Market Basket has historic significance. When have we ever seen employees on the street for their boss? Arthur T. Demoulas has built a management model that is a true reflection of the American dream, I believe. A business where the leader takes a modest salary, where he's established a salary and benefits for his employees that are more than fair, and where he gives a fair price for his product. If this model was the norm for our country, I don't believe we'd have had so many of the economic downturns. But my concern is actually the employees of Market Basket. They've put themselves out on the street to support their former CEO. I think Arthur T. Demoulas has done so much for this community, he warrants our support. But I think the employees, and many of them who live in Lowell, also warrant our support. I know as a political body, there's nothing we can do legally. And I guess we cannot interfere with a private matter process. But sometimes when you are part of the political leadership, you feel that you can do so many things. But in reality, sometimes when something important really happens, we feel almost hopeless. But I'd like to see this city council at least take some measure like was done at the state level to show some support to the employees of Demoulas. And if we can do that legally, I mean, I'd have to ask the city solicitor, you know, what can we do legally that has some significance? But I think it's important for us to show the people who work for the Market Basket Corporation, who live in Lowell, that we do support them. And to Arthur T. Demoulas, who's been very kind to this city, that we show support of him. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Madam Solicitor, I know we did discuss this, I think it was maybe a year ago. Did the city send a letter to the organization? Can we do something along the same lines that Council Samaras is suggesting?
Excuse me. Yes, I believe the letter was sent last year, and that's exactly what I was thinking as well. I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Council Marcia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's no doubt about the fact that Arthur T. DeMoulis has been very instrumental in being that strength that filled the gap in many respects to many charities, to many employees, to many families. Their children, their grandchildren have all been employed by the DeMoulis Company. And I want to thank Ellen Collins for coming here this evening and expressing her opinion. And the most important thing that she said was, we have a right to display our displeasure. We did that a year ago. It didn't seem to do too much because the inevitable did happen. But 27 state legislators have signed a letter to show support for Arthur T. DeMoulis. I'd like to add another 9 to the list. I'm certainly sure that we could find out what letter they're sending and emulate that in terms of us signing a letter to show our support. To the person that wanted to remain anonymous, I know that I needed help for different people, and he came through, did not want any recognition at all. He helped the senior center in more ways than one. He's just a remarkable man, and I've traveled today, being my day off, to Fitchburg, to all over the place. I had an assignment to do, and it seemed like every area that I went through, to Middleton, to wherever, to Reading, all the DeMoulises right along the way were people out in droves along each store. So to be loved that much and to not turn around and do something about it, to show our support to a person that has given so much. I concur with my colleague, Bill Samaras, Councilor Samaras. Something could be done, and I'm sure we'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion? So, I think I'll entertain a motion to refer the recommendation by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Mercia, to the City Manager's Office and consequently the City Solicitor's Office to draft a letter in support of Arthur T. DeMoulis, and then we'll bring that back to the next council meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Martin?
I was just going to suggest that if it's ready for signature, it might be circulated
Yeah.
in advance of the meeting, since it's not for a few weeks.
Yeah, that's a good point. So if the manager could prepare that with the solicitor, and then we can work either through your office, Mr. Manager, and/or mine to contact councilors to have them circulate that letter for signature in a timely manner. No, we're not meeting for 3 weeks. That would be great. All those in roll call. Sorry, Mr. Clerk.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel O'Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion carries, unanimous vote. Thank you, Ms. Collins. We appreciate it. We'll get that letter out as soon as we possibly can in support of Arthur DeMoulis. Okay, reverting back to,
Mr. Mayor?
sorry, Council Mercia?
I wonder if the miscellaneous person, Sandra Beltran, is here to request abandonment of Woodbine.
Okay, item number 9.4, we have a miscellaneous petition from Sandra Beltran to request the council regarding the abandonment portion of Woodbine Ave. Is she here?
Oh.
She's not here, so
She's not
we
here,
will,
but there's people speaking in opposition, Mr. Mayor.
well, the individual's not here to speak on it, so
Yeah.
do we want to bring up the petition anyway? What's the wish of the body? Council Martin?
I'd entertain a motion, at least hear the comments of the people that did show up.
Okay, so.
I don't know that any action maybe I would not anticipate final action be taken tonight, but people took the time to come. I think we should hear from them and then probably refer the matter to the manager for report and recommendation.
Makes sense. So motion to suspend the rules to take item 9.4 out of order by Council Mercia, seconded by Councilor Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Miscellaneous petition by Sandra Beltran, petition to City Council Description of petition to the City of Lowell to abandon land, half of Woodbine Ave and between 535 Varnum, my property, and 557, the old and now closed Sunbridge Nursing Home. Dear Sir and Madam, please consider this letter my request to the abandonment of the above described site. I have enclosed a copy of the survey. Photos, I'm sorry. Photos and descriptions of the site to be abandoned, which is located at Woodbine Ave and between 535 and 557 Barnum Ave in the City of Lowell. Thank you for your assistance on this matter. Sincerely yours, Sandra Beltran. Mr. Clerk?
There's two registered speaker, Louisa Varnum.
Good evening, Mayor Elliott, Council, and City Manager Murphy. My name's Louisa Varnum, 55 Varnum Terrace. I'm representing the Woodbine Cemetery Association. I'm the clerk. Woodbine Cemetery is an historic, privately owned and maintained cemetery on West Meadow Road. It began as a family cemetery with the oldest gravestone dating to 1765. Woodbine was incorporated in 1869 and enlarged around 1900 to its present size, becoming mostly a neighborhood cemetery at that point. Around the time of the expansion, my grandfather, Thomas Varnum, purchased the property at 557 Varnum Avenue, where the nursing home is now, for the purpose of subdividing that property to create an access road on the north and west sides of Woodbine Cemetery, which is called Woodbine Avenue. It was intended as the main access to the cemetery, and there are two double gates built into the west wall of the cemetery to provide entrances to the cemetery from Woodbine Avenue. The cleared part of Woodbine Cemetery has no lots remaining for sale. To expand, we would need to clear the trees in the parcel along Woodbine Avenue, and will need an access point on that side of the cemetery. The language in the deeds of the two abutting properties, numbers 535 and 557 Varnum Avenue, both mention Woodbine Ave as a private road. The Woodbine Cemetery Association considers Woodbine Ave a private road which was given to the cemetery by Thomas Varnum for their access. We are not in favor of giving away any property rights to Woodbine Ave and would question the present use of the right-of-way for private use by abutters at the level it presently exists. In closing, the Woodbine Cemetery Association requests that any abandonment requests by abutters regarding Woodbine Avenue be denied, and that full access to the road by the Woodbine Cemetery Association be maintained. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Varnum.
John Hamblett.
Thank you. My name is John Hamblett, 495 Varnum Avenue. I am co-chair of the Pawtucketville Citizens Council, and I'm speaking in opposition to abandoning the property. I originally thought I'd be talking to the City Council, the owners of the property, and so my message doesn't change no matter who the owners are. About 11 years ago, during the master planning process, we identified the potential for a wildlife corridor and greenway that could extend from the state forest down to the Merrimack River. I have a map, if I may pass it out.
Sure, I will.
So at the top of the plan, you'll see the state forest. That's the Gumpus Road entrance. And the yellow line is the proposed wildlife corridor and greenway. It extends down behind the school, Pawtucket Memorial and Wang's School. And there's a section of that yellow line that has red on either side. That is the Woodbine Avenue section. It then crosses Varnum Avenue and continues down through 520 Varnum Avenue, which is now known as Hawk Valley Farm. You agreed to put that in conservation a few years ago. From there, it continues over a small piece of land that we recently learned, in fact, last night, that is owned by Mass DOT or Mass Highway, but DCR has indicated a willingness to work with partners as far as a wildlife corridor and greenway. If this all looks a little familiar, it's because the more longer serving councilors have voted on this 4 times in the last 10 years. In the Lowell 2003 Master Plan, Section 3.1.10, the title was Protect Open Space and Natural Areas Where Development Pressures on Green Areas Threaten Existing Neighborhood Character. The action step was to develop a greenway system, including a neighborhood trail between the state forest and the north bank of the Merrimack River. The City Council voted unanimously in favor. 2 years later, in 2005, you voted unanimously in favor of the open space plan. And under the topic of corridors, vegetative corridors are critical for habitat survival. Strips of undeveloped land provide essential links for animals and birds to move from one feeding spot to another. When development cuts off these links, wildlife ultimately face extinction as their habitats dwindle. A recommendation of the Lowell Open Space Plan approved by this council is to recognize and maintain the wildlife corridor between the Lowell, Dracut, Tingsboro State Forest and the Merrimack River. Parcels along this corridor should be protected whenever possible. In 2006, you voted unanimously in favor of the Pawtucketville Master Plan. That said, the city will develop a greenway system, including a neighborhood trail system that creates links between existing neighborhood parks, the state forest, and the Merrimack River. The city will identify and protect wildlife corridors through acquisitions and easements within the neighborhood, paying specific attention to land in and around Pawtucket Boulevard and sites along Varnum Avenue, Trotting Park Road, the state forest, and Clay Pit Brook. 3 years later, in 2009, City Council agreed and voted unanimously to place a conservation restriction on 5 acres of land in partnership with the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust and their partners, trustees of reservations, to protect the historic Hawk Valley Farm off of Varnum Avenue in Lowell. I spoke with Jane Calvin this morning of Lowell Parks and Conservation, and she reminded me of 2 facts. One of the critical elements of that conservation was this wildlife corridor, trailway access, and greenway from the state forest through to the river. To give you an idea where we are now as far as that plan goes, 520 Varnum Avenue is in conservation and is maintained by the Varnum family, and there is a trail from Varnum Avenue down to Clay Pit Brook. At Clay Pit Brook, the foundation for the original stone bridge exists, and a local private land trust has donors interested in putting that through. If we are able to put the stone bridge in, you will be able to walk from the state forest to the Merrimack River. I am requesting that abandonment for this particular private street not be supported. However, I have a second request. Currently, the nursing home, which is going to be auctioned off, is advertising 32 parking spaces. 17 of those are located behind the building, and the other 15 are in the public road. Apparently, the auctioneer and/or the seller believe that the parking spaces in the public road, private road, are his, and he can sell them. I would have thought this would have been of interest to the petitioner for this cause also. So I am seeking help from the city. Tomorrow is the first open house of the nursing home, and I am requesting that someone from the city contact the auctioneer and let him know that he cannot sell parking spaces that he does not own. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamlet. Further discussion on this petition? I entertain a motion to refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Council Martin?
Just also, if ask the Law Department if they could look into the suggestions by Mr. Hamlet. You know, what rights the city has and what we may be able to do to assert those rights if they're not being respected.
And I'll second that because I think that's a good, more or less a motion.
Okay, so why don't we amend we'll amend the petition. Petition is not here, but I don't think there'll be an objection. But motion to amend the petition by Council Martin, seconded by Council Mercia, to include request by Mr. Hamlet regarding property rights and other issues. All those in favor of the motion as amended signify by saying aye. And the opposed? That motion carries. We'll get a report and recommendation from the Law Department. Thank you, Mr. Hamlet. Ms. Varnum? Moving back to the agenda, we're going to go to 4.3. It's a communication from the city manager regarding the status of the water board hearings. Motion to accept the communication and place on file by Council Milanazzo, second by Councilor Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Next item, 4.4, again, is a communication from the city manager regarding trash rebate. Discussion, motion to accept.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Kennedy?
can I just ask one question, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, what did we have an estimate on this in the budget deliberations in the FY15 budget? Is that accounted for? Is this a windfall, or is this something that we anticipated and it did come in at the amount, or?
The entire rebate was split over a number of years. It was about $658,000 that was applied to the trash account in FY14, and then another, I think, $192,000 will be applied to this year's trash expense to mitigate the cost of collection and disposal. But that's the total of the rebate for the contract that was negotiated.
Okay, and that was in the budget?
That is calculated in the figures that were allocated in the budget, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Further discussion? Motion to accept the report and place on file by Council Mercia, second by Council Milanazzo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is another communication by the city manager's request for out-of-state travel for one person from the Lowell Police Department. Motion to approve by Councilor Leahy, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Roll call.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. Item 4.6 is the communication. It's a reappointment of Sue Ellen O'Neill to the Hunger Homeless Commission. Motion to approve by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Belanger.
It doesn't need our approval. I don't think.
No, just a motion to accept and place on file by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, 4.7, another communication. Accept resignation from David Longvin from the Green Building Commission. Motion to accept and place on file by Council Kennedy, second by Council Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries as well. Moving on to Section 5, these are votes from the city manager. 5.1 is a vote, authorize the school department to proceed under Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the lease of property for school administration offices.
Move approval.
Okay, motion to suspend to waive the full reading by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. That motion carries. Second reading by title. In City Council is a vote authorizing the school department to proceed under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, for the lease of property for the school administration offices. Move approval by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Rourke.
Excuse me.
On the motion, Councilor
Thank
Mercia.
you. I know that this vote was approved by the school committee, and I know that Councilor Belanger wants bodies downtown patronizing the different stores and venues, and most likely I will support this as well. But I can't help but wonder out loud how much thought and planning was done to come to this decision. Could we have consolidated 2 alternative schools and free up one to provide a rent-free option with adequate parking, which is lacking in the downtown? We're actually not providing easy access service to the public. Although the cost is lowered and we're getting a better break with the rent in the building than the last time, I still can't help but wonder and realize that after 5 years, the city would have spent $2 million and will have nothing to show for it. And these thoughts bother me. I just had to express my concerns. Perhaps we can look at the bigger picture for the future and plan now so that in the end, the city can come out ahead next time. That's my comment. Other than that, I have no choice really but to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I think when my motion comes up, it'll provide a little bit of an explanation why there was not ample time for planning based upon the student population. But I couldn't agree with you more. I expressed the same concerns, but right, this is where we're at. Further discussion on this motion? Move to approve.
We already got it. Yep. Roll call.
We have moved to approve and was seconded. Roll call.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
9 yeas. Next item on the agenda is orders from the city manager. We have an order for 60-day trial for traffic regulations. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Second reading by title. And City Council's an order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Further discussion? Move to approve by Counsel Belanger, seconded by Counsel Kennedy. Roll call.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. Next item is an order of taking and acceptance of South Ridge Circle. Entertain a motion to refer this to a public hearing on August 12th, 2014 at 7 p.m. by Counsel Belanger, seconded by Counsel Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next item is an order of taking. It's a roadway improvements on Broadway and Pawtucket Street. Entertain a motion to waive the full reading, the second reading by Counsel Leahy, seconded by Counsel Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Second reading by title in City Council to take eminent domain, by eminent domain, certain parcels of land in the City of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, in furtherance of roadway improvements on Broadway Street and Pawtucket Street. Discussion, motion to approve and send to a public hearing on August. Oh, no public hearing. Excuse me. Okay, clerk indicates we do not have to send it to a public hearing, that we can vote on this evening. Okay. Roll call. Motion to approve by Counsel Mercia, second by Counsel Rourke. Roll call.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
It's 9 yeas.
9 yeas. Motion carries. Moving on to items, Section 7, ordinances from the city manager. We have 7.1, ordinance amending Chapter 272-87, annual sewer charge. This has to go to a public hearing. Entertain a motion to refer to a public hearing on August 12th at 7 p.m. by Council Samaras, seconded by Council O'Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the next section. Under reports, subcommittee, there's a finance subcommittee on July 22nd this evening regarding an ordinance, proposed amendments to Chapter 272, water and sewer. There were a couple of motions. If there's no objection by the members, I just will give a brief report on that finance subcommittee. This ordinance was referred to the Finance Subcommittee by the City Manager. In attendance were Council Mercia, Council Belanger, my members of the Finance Subcommittee, the City Manager, and staff from the Water and Sewer Department. Council Samaras was also in attendance. Council Milonazo. But the ordinance to amend the water sewing was in response to the billing problems at the Water Department. Manager indicated that management issues and personnel issues that led to this problem have been addressed, and estimating billing problems with exorbitant bills led to this new amendment to the water sewer. Motion, I guess the crux of this ordinance is that it will put in place a procedure to address estimated water bills and abate them if necessary. This motion has to, there was a motion made by the Finance Subcommittee to recommend to the full council that this be sent to a public hearing, and that public hearing is going to be, okay, we're going to give it the first reading after the report, but members of the subcommittee, are those in attendance, or is there anything else that you'd like to add to the report? No, okay. So the motion is to make this recommendation to send it to a public hearing and the first reading in City Council, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 272 entitled Water and Sewer. This will be sent to public hearing on August 12th. Mr. Manager, on the motion?
Could I ask that you, I think what you'd like to do is to take refer it to the law department so that we can draft the amendments to the ordinance and then bring it back at the next meeting? Is that okay, Christine?
So, Madam Solicitor, we can send this to a public hearing, or do we wait till the next meeting with those amendments, or the amendment?
We're going to have an amendment.
There was another item at the Finance Subcommittee that we did not take up. It was my mistake, and it was regarding a motion that was made regarding a two-year limit. So that item was not addressed, but. So, procedurally, what is the best way to do this? Because it should be included in that ordinance.
So it would be to refer it to the law department to include that amendment, and then we'll bring it.
We'll bring it back down August 12th for a first reading,
Yes.
and then refer it to a public hearing.
Correct.
The 24th, I think, is the next one. Okay. No, just refer it to the law department.
So then the recommendation will be to refer the ordinance to the law department to provide the amendment, and then we'll order that to a public hearing on August
24th.
24th, right?
Yep.
Okay, motion to approve. Councilor
26th.
Kennedy?
We have what was before the subcommittee meeting, and then there was one amendment to have there be a quarterly reporting to the city council. That was approved, and then that was it. There hasn't been a vote taken on the second item.
Right.
So are you suggesting that the ordinance be drawn up without the vote being taken on the second item?
No, the suggestion was to send that
time?
second item to the law department and then bring the entire ordinance back to the council before we send it to a public hearing.
With the second item included?
Correct.
Right.
Okay, and is the second item for 2 years or for 3 years, or how does that read?
The motion was 2 years. That's what the motion was referred to the
But we
Finance
can
Subcommittee.
make a compromise as long as it would be a good,
But that can be amended when that comes back to the, when the final draft of the ordinance comes back to the city council in
Okay.
2 weeks.
yes.
So, but you're right, Councilor, the motion was for 2 years.
Okay.
All those in favor of sending this to the law department for review, recommendation, and reporting back with the amendment, signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Next, under item 8.2, still under subcommittee reports, we have a report from the Public Safety Subcommittee on July 22nd regarding the ordinance, proposed amendments to Chapter 222, create a new section 222-15 entitled Synthetic Recreation Drugs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, July 22nd, we have a Public Safety Subcommittee meeting with myself, Councilor Mercier, and Councilor Belanger. Also in attendance was the entire City Council, including the Mayor, as well as Superintendent of Police, William Taylor, Fire Department Chief Pitter, Deputies Friedel and Deputy Ryan for Lowell Police, Marianne Bellotta from Lowell Police. Also from the Department of Health, we had Director Frank Singleton and Christine Connolly, as well as our CFO, Connor Baldwin. Discussed tonight was the use of Narcan on fire department vehicles. Chief Pitter spoke on that subject. He told the subcommittee that both Narcan and EpiPens will be on fire trucks, and personnel will be trained by the second week of August, so that's fully functional. Council, and especially the subcommittee, would like to thank Chief Pitter and the fire department for their quick response to this work on this important matter. Secondly, Mr. Mayor, it was regarding your motion on curfew ordinance in Lowell. Speaking on this was Superintendent Taylor, Manager Murphy, Councilors Belanger and Mercier. As a result of the conversation, Councilor Belanger made a motion seconded by Councilor Mercia, to send the current ordinance back to the law department for a more impactful and comprehensive writing of the ordinance regarding enforcement of the curfews. Thirdly, the communication from the city manager in regards to the amendment to Chapter 222 to create a new section regarding synthetic drugs. Those speaking on that subject was Lowell's Director of Public Health, Frank Singleton, and also Christine Connolly. Among the discussion was a grant that's to be reviewed by the Law Department and also the Department of Health from Lowell General Hospital. With the grant, the department hopes to educate hospitals, schools, parents, and children with the danger of synthetic drugs, how they are packaged and how they are sold. Also discussed was the implementation of a $300 fine for any retail store selling synthetic drugs. The city manager informed the subcommittee that a change in ordinance was almost complete, and hopefully a vote could be taken soon. Councilor Mercia made a motion, which was seconded by Councilor Belanger, I believe, to send this ordinance to a public hearing. The motion was passed. Lastly, on the agenda was an item concerning the recent gun incidents in the city. Speaking again was Superintendent Taylor and Deputy Ryan. Among discussion by the subcommittee, the police administration, and councils was the following. More community outreach and dialogue. The chief spoke of multiple meetings he's had in the community in different neighborhoods. Deputy Ryan spoke of more strict motor vehicle enforcement, especially during peak times, and enhanced crime analysis. Also spoken of was a partnership between Lowell PD Special Investigation Unit with the State Police Gang Unit. Also stayed with all the extra officers all across the city at this time. With that, Mr. Mayor, the meeting was adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And at that time, we discussed the synthetic and recreational ordinance that's before us. At that time, I said that we supported it and we referred it to a public hearing. I would like to amend this ordinance under Section C that states enforcement, if we could all look at that, and add the Lowell Police Department, Inspectors of Developmental Services Department, the outreach worker from the Health Department, and the Tobacco Control Director included that shall be the enforcing authorities for this ordinance. So I'd like to add more people to that, where it doesn't say it in the original intent of the ordinance. It just says the Lowell Police Department and Developmental Services, but I'd like to add the outreach worker from the Health Department and the Tobacco Control Director. If there's no objection, I'd like to put them in there as well.
Okay, motion to amend the ordinance as presented by Councilor Mercia. Second by Councilor Belanger, to include language to include outreach, work with the Health Department and Tobacco Control Officer.
Right, thank you.
Discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Recommendation, we have a number of motions that came out of that subcommittee, so while we're on the synthetic drugs, and we amended that ordinance, entertain a motion to, I have to do the first reading, then we'll send it to a public hearing. So first reading, in City Council's an ordinance, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 222 entitled Peace and Good Ordinance by adding 222-15 entitled Synthetic Recreational Drugs as amended. Motion to send, what is the date on that, to send it to a public? Motion to refer that to a public hearing on August 12th by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. The second motion out of the Public Safety Subcommittee was to refer the curfew ordinance to the Law Department. Motion to send that, refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Councilor Leahy, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, Motion carries. Was there another motion out of that Public Safety Subcommittee, Mr. Chairman?
Also, thank you.
Okay. Motion to accept, further discussion on that report. Motion to accept the report and place on file by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Is that it for subcommittee reports? Moving on to item number 9, section number 9, under petitions. We have 3 claims. We have 4 claims, 3 for property damage, 1 for personal injury. Motion to refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Council Samaras, seconded by Council Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. That motion carries. Still under petitions, we have a petition by National Grid requesting an underground electric conduit at Central and Warren Street. Motion to refer to a public hearing on August 12th by Council Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. That motion carries as well. We have another petition by National Grid, along with Verizon New England, to request a pole location at 279 Pawtucket Street. Motion to refer this to a public hearing on August 12th as well, at 7 p.m. by Council Martin, seconded by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to 9 point, Council Leahy.
I just had a quick question. When they come before us in a couple of weeks, we don't have any power on parts of Prescott and East Merrimack Street. Is that something we can bring up?
Maybe we can contact them before then. I mean, there's no power for
The streetlights, we've been,
streetlights?
yeah, I brought that up a while ago. So Prescott, the streetlights are still out, and then a couple between Fayette and High Street that's still not working. So there's no reason why they can't dig anymore if it's, we brought it up last year, and they said during the winter months it may be an issue that they couldn't dig, but,
Okay.
so.
Mr. Manager, can we try to look into that before the next meeting? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Council Kennedy?
While we're on streetlights, there's still streetlights out too on Central Street on, in the vicinity of the Rialto that I think were addressed, but they're out again. So I don't know why that happens, but maybe we could find out about that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Any else? Any other streetlights? Council Milanazzo, while we're on streetlights.
In front of Council Mercia's house, the light's out.
And I'm not saying a word.
On Burnham Road.
Okay.
I think it's the filament. It just goes on, and then it's off, then it's dark for days, and then it comes on again. I don't know what's going on, but...
We'll look into that one, too. Anyone else with streetlights? Okay. Moving on to 9, we did 9.4, we did 9.5, we did 9.6. On to council motions. First motion of the evening by Council Mercia, request city manager conduct a tour with the city council of the Lowell Regional Waste Water Utility Plant and note the conditions of the plant and follow the equipment, i.e. magnetic flow, meters, chipping paint into water basements, et cetera, et cetera. Second by Council Milanazzo. Council Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It appears to me, from what I've learned, is that the Lowell Regional Water Utility equipment does not work properly. Water is measured and controlled by flowing through a magnetic flow meter. It is my understanding that these mag meters are old and no longer accurate and should have been replaced years ago. The plant is in disrepair and that equipment breaks down on a regular basis and Band-Aid fixes are performed. Paint is falling off of ceilings into the water basins, and the place is a mess. This is what I'm understanding. I don't know this because I can't just decide to go into the building unannounced. I think I need permission, although I really wish that I should have just got some people and went in there, because from what I'm understanding, they're seeing the motion now and they're making repairs and cleaning the place. So maybe it was a good idea that I put this motion forward in the first place. This motion is a request to enter the building so that we can see for ourselves if there is any cause for concern. Although they're doing some things, I don't think they've done some others, and I would like to go see. And another concern of mine in regard to this building is that it is a public safety facility where people must go to apply for and show proof for an elderly discount, and this building has no handicap ramp and is not ADA accessible. Now, I know Powers and Sullivan perform a financial audit. Who does the operational audit? I know that my next motion is a sanitary survey that's done by the state, but who does this operational audit? So that's this motion here. I'm not trying to pick on the water department, but I think there's many faults down there, and unless we're made aware of it, we're not going to know what's going on. And I am made aware of it, and that's why I'm bringing up these motions, because, and it doesn't mean you're the bad guy or you're not doing your job. It means that things are being pointed out, and we're just trying to correct them. That's what I'm trying to do here with these motions. If I don't, it would be wrong of me to be aware of these things and not say anything and just let it go. I mean, I could hide my head in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist, or maybe it doesn't exist, but I want to know that. I want to be aware that if people call me and people have concerns, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to follow through with it, and that's what these two motions are all about. So that's it for that one.
Thank you, Counselor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. Next item, next motion by Councilor Mercia. Request city manager provide a copy to the council of the sanitary survey conducted on the Lowell Regional Water Utility 2 years ago. Second by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A sanitary survey is an on-site review of a public water system, water source, facility, equipment, operations, and maintenance. It's done by the state. Survey points out sanitary deficiencies and assesses a system's capability to supply safe drinking water. And I know the drinking water is completely safe. There's no doubt about that. But the rest of the place, to me, is what I'm hearing is in disrepair. This sanitary survey may shed some light as to the problems that needed to be corrected. This motion is simply asking for a look at the report that is done every 3 years. The report will be 2 years old, but it would be worth to take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Next motion by Councilor Kennedy, request city manager and instruct proper department prepare an RFP for a backwater study at the Pawtucket Dam in order to determine the water level at which the Clay Pit Brook neighborhood would begin to flood. Second by Councilor Belanger. Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of months ago, this council supported a motion to have the university conduct a backwater study to do the same thing that the motion calls for tonight. Since that time, we have found out that the university is not going to be able to do that backwater study. And so what makes sense to me and what I think is in the best interest of the Pawtucketville neighborhood, but also in the best interest of the city, is that the city manager prepare an RFP to do that backwater study so that we can see just how long it would take, how much it would cost, and so forth, and then be able to move forward from there. And I think that in preparing the backwater study, once it gets to a draft form, that it would probably be prudent to involve people from the Pawtucketville Neighborhood Council, or the people that we met with, Mr. Manager, a couple of months ago when we were discussing this issue, so that everybody's on board and in agreement going in. And so that there can be, and so that everybody's happy with the outcome and feels confident in that outcome when it comes about.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, for starters, want to applaud Councilor Kennedy. He's been on the front lines on this issue for since I've been on this, only a short time, but he's been very on top of this, and I'm sure the residents of Pawtucketville are appreciative of that. But through you to the manager, Why is the university unable to do this? What's the reasoning there?
Their engineers, my understanding is that staff from the University of Massachusetts Lowell participated in the first backwater study, and they feel that it's an adequate backwater study and don't believe that it's wise to expend further money on a backwater study that isn't going to produce anything more than's already been produced by them.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, how long ago was this study performed, Mr. Manager? I'm not aware. Do you know?
The
Yeah. Oh, so they chimed in at that time. Okay. All right. Do we have any idea what this is going to cost at this point?
That's what we'll find out through the RFP process.
Yes, we will. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. Next motion of the evening by Council Belanger, request city manager have proper departments perform a citywide cleanup in preparation for the Lowell Festival. Seconded by Council Kennedy. Council Belanger?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's that all-important time of the year again when the city of Lowell takes center stage, and we anticipate over 150,000 visitors in the course of our three-day festival. And the weather is with us on this one. The weather looks very, very good throughout the weekend. And I just would like the city to look good. I know we're all on the same page there. Mr. Manager, you sent me a memo regarding paving, and I see the crews have been working tirelessly the last couple of weeks on the sidewalks, improving them in the downtown for some time. But it goes beyond that. I know you're aware that gateways, especially coming off Thorndike Street, trash and debris. We just want the city to shine for all these visitors that come in, enjoy this wonderful free festival that attracts people from all over. And it's very, very exciting. I know as a downtown businessman, we're looking very forward to it, and it's always very, very beneficial to all of us throughout the downtown and the city and its image, quite frankly, and we're all very excited about it. So I know you'll be on top of it, Mr. Mayor, but I just would like the city to be looking as best as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Council Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a very good motion. I think that, one way to look at that folk festival is it's sort of an open house for the city. It's a time when people come in from other communities and other states, and it may be the only time that they come to Lowell all year. And so it's important that they have a good impression and that they leave with a good impression during their time here. And so I think that and I also think that there's a lot to be done as far as cleaning up the downtown. So it would be good if we could put a lot of effort into it over the next couple of weeks. For instance, and this is just a for instance, but when I was coming here tonight, as I passed by the Enterprise Bank, there was a tree that was going to be planted, but it was knocked over on its side. And I just wonder how that tree's going to survive through the evening tonight, and whether or not, what it's going to look like when it does get planted, hopefully tomorrow. But anyways, I just think that there's a lot of little things that could be done in order to spruce up the whole downtown, and I think it's important that the city do as much as it can. Thanks.
Mr. Manager?
Rest assured, we're doing everything this week. The Parks Department is doing weeding, mulching trees along the main streets downtown. We're cleaning the islands and the monuments leading into the city. We've been sprucing up Lucy Larkin Park, Cregan Park, Kerouac Park, repairing benches. We've spruced up the Lowell High School flower pots and mulching areas. We're doing sidewalk repairs, and especially at the JFK Plaza. I know the stairs right near where I go out every day have been repaired. And we're doing all cleanup along the major entranceways to the city. So I can't congratulate the DPW, Parks, and Lands and Building enough for the job that they do, and you'll be proud of what the city looks like this weekend.
Council Leahy?
I just wanted to add too that, because people had asked me, and you're doing it, painting of the poles, the light poles and things like that, so that's a big plus. Everybody's been asking for that, so I saw them doing that.
The Spindle City group does that.
Set. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Council Leahy, could you take the chair?
Last motion of the night, 10.5 by Mayor Elliott. Request city manager have CFO and the superintendent of schools produce a report regarding costs incurred to educate newcomer students to Lowell Public Schools. Seconded by Councilor Mercia. Mayor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I should probably amend my own motion, have the CFO with the superintendent of schools work with the city auditor to get costs. But the purpose of the motion is to get a firm grasp of the cost associated with ELL and those issues. The student population in the Lowell Public Schools over the course, say, the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen a significant increase. We've seen a significant increase, influx of students, and it continues to place a great demand on resources. Consequently, we see classroom sizes increasing and overall growth, and we also have charter schools that have been absorbing some of these increases. But a report produced by the superintendent just 3 months ago reflects students who come into this country with refugee status, who come to the system with limited or no formal schooling. This requires the district to expand the newcomer programs, and this drains resources from mainstream classrooms. Also requires a need for more English language learner certified teachers. We already have 45 ESL teachers teaching English language development to more than 4,000 English language learners. In addition, there are also 59 part-time tutors providing supplemental support to ELL. So in April of this year, the school committee received a report about changing demographics, which included the rise in ELL newcomer numbers, level 1 and 2. The changes in 1 year were 517 newcomer students in 2011 and 2012 to 770 in 2012-2013, an increase of over 258 students. In the past 2 years, we have added 7 newcomer classes and hired 7 teachers and 7 paraprofessionals at a cost of over $115,000 for staff and $20,000 for each new classroom, totaling $945,000. For this coming year, the committee has already approved restructuring to add more classes in the middle school by shifting staff in a realignment proposal and staffing 3 additional elementary classrooms staffed by 3 teachers, 3 paraprofessionals, totaling an additional $405,000. The city and the school district can no longer keep pace with this trend. The city added an additional $10 million to the school department from state and city resources. Lowell has never turned its back on any culture, any nationality, any population in need. We are one of the most, if not the most, diversified cities in the country. We are a city of immigrants, and we will remain that way. Lowell High School headmaster indicates there are 46 countries represented in the student population. The difference is the level of services that are provided now versus what was made available in the past. The cost of the level of services that we must now offer and are required by the state and federal government are skyrocketing, and the burden falls on cities like Lowell. Now, like any other organization or business, there are limitations to how much we can handle as a school district to properly educate our children. Should this trend continue, we compromise the education of our current students. I urge you, ask the teachers, the paras, and the educators in the classrooms, the ones that are on the front line, what they're experiencing. We are getting to a point of being over capacity in our school. In addition, not only is the teacher ratio approaching 24 students in the classroom, but we're now facing a shortage of classroom space in our system, which is one of the reasons why we have spent thousands to open up the Rogers School and move administrative offices to create more space. More importantly, a report was done 2 years ago that cited that we are facing with an overcrowding problem in our middle schools, and there's a need for 36 more classrooms in the middle schools. This is a huge financial burden to the taxpayers of the city, and there's no new funding to pay for it. So what I want members of this body to know, and the governor and even the president, come and visit Lowell and see firsthand the impact we are experiencing in our schools with newcomers and with refugees. It's the same problem that many other cities in Massachusetts are facing and across the country, and it's hitting the folks that pay the taxes very hard. These types of unfunded mandate fall disproportionately on local government, the toll which falls on the children trying to obtain a quality education. The school system is bursting at the seams, and more children are expected. I can't see how we can sustain this without a massive infusion of funding from the state and federal government. And it doesn't seem likely considering the fiscal condition they're in. We need our state and federal representatives to understand this problem, acknowledge this problem, and find a way to solve this problem before the system collapses. So that is the purpose of my motion, to get that information, get that data, and present it to the state and federal officials, because we're not on the right track when it comes to funding our school system. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I think this is a great motion. And to get to Mayor Elliott's points that, Lowell, we've always been a city of immigrants. That is our foundation. We have many nationalities here. I visited many of the schools, and it's encouraging to see all how diverse we really, really are, all the way to a young age. But we got a problem that's serious, and it's going to get far worse. Of refugees, undocumented or illegal aliens, whichever term you choose to use, are pegged for Lowell. We are on that list, many of which are unskilled and uneducated, and they're on their way. There is no denying a child an education in the city, under no circumstances. I get it. But nonetheless, it costs money. These children cost 2 to 3 times more to educate than an English-speaking student or child. Someone has to bear that cost. So what the mayor's alluding to is that, a tab, if you will, a number, we need to know how many of these students are hitting our school system. Now, the superintendent of schools was on the radio just last week. We have about 100 to 200 families from the Congo pegged for Lowell. From Central America, on the border, the crisis on the border, 6 planes have landed at Fort Devens. Don't know what's going to fall out there. Strong possibility we'll get some of those families in Lowell as well. This is going to affect our school system dramatically, to an already ongoing problem that the mayor's more enlightened than I. Someone needs to pay for this. All we can do is get a tab on a situation and enter these kids into the system, but nonetheless, we need to know the correct amount. And my strategy, I'm only one counselor on this, but we need to involve Congresswoman Tsongas, okay? And she needs to carry and stand up for her city, okay? Now, if the president, by all means, with all due respect, wants to have failed immigration policies, then let him pay for it, okay? The school department is going to be looking for more money in the coming years to pay for all this, and they're not going to be wrong. These things cost money. We're going to have to get teachers, English as a second language teacher and whatnot. And that's what we need. That's what we're going to do. But I'm not going to be looking to tax the homeowners of Lowell to pay for it. I think that's wrong. I'm sorry. So I think we need to get on this problem sooner rather than later. It's going to get very, very serious, where our schools are going to be bursting from the seams. There's going to be a middle school congestion, to say the least, in the next 2 to 3 years, as we were briefed by the superintendent. So we do need to keep a tab on the situation. I'm sorry. I hope I don't come off to be offensive, but I'm merely standing up for the taxpayers of Lowell, that these children, it costs money to educate them, and it should not be on the backs of the Lowell taxpayers. That's my point. So thank you very much, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Motion carries. So now we just need a motion to adjourn by Mayor Elliott, second by Councilor Kennedy.